Do you think it's too late to prevent the world from going into full fascistic rule? I guess it like depends how we define fascism. I guess I know that sounds like I'm fucking talking about semantics here, and it's a really cop out answer, but just like hear me through. Um, I am a big supporter and a big believer in the tendency of the development of this mode of production to move towards the hyper concentration of capital, because as the industry gets more and more complex to become an advanced capitalistic nation, it becomes more and more complex. You require capital concentration in fewer and fewer hands just to make that happen. And so as industry gets more and more complex, like look at AI for instance, like only so many players on the world stage can even afford, and like the entire nations can't even afford to get involved in the AI arms race. So it's really just down between two powers who have massive like multi-trillion dollar economies. And so like as capital concentrates in more and more hands and the technology becomes so expensive from a capital perspective and capital intensity perspective, you have fewer and fewer people that can play in the economy and be really decisive from like a power relation standpoint, the real bourgeoisie. As you concentrate more and more in fewer people's hands just by the logistics of capital flow, what you will see is a tendency away from the free market, like the free market as we know it, like where people have freedoms and like have liberties and like democracy and all that sort of stuff. And so democracy gets in the way of capital intensive investment. And so that's what China has done really well. It's used plan economics under the guise of socialism to justify having one party rule, and like steer away from the liberal style democracy where people fight over things every 4 years and you can't really progress further than that. But like as capital becomes more and more intensive and requires more planning, like you really have to plan like more than 4 years in advance to have that, then the democracy system that we know will disappear because of that material constraint. And so like industry requires, or being a big player in the new 21st century economy will require more planning and less democracy, or democracy will be seen as a constraint on the planning required for this and the capital investment required to be a big player. And so that's the material basis as to why you see a move towards authoritarianism, because authoritarianism seems to be in stark contradiction to democracy, but democracy seems to be holding capitalism back and like technological development back, because yeah, like I said, like democracy gets in the way of like proper planning and capital intensive development proposals, because like things are too up in the air and they change every 4 years. People can't land stable governments, and like the whole system seems to be in disarray. And it's not that it's in disarray, it's just serving an economic time that was, 100 years ago, 150 years ago. Democracy, because of the way we've allowed it to go, and that we've allowed capital to develop, is no longer adequate to meet the needs of the capitalist economy. And so we will move towards something akin to fascism. But like I said, I'm a believer in the idea of techno-feudalism, actually. And techno-feudalism is like, yeah, fascism, basically, where you basically have you will have the merger of kind of massive corporations that can afford the capital intensive stuff, but they also need the planning and the discipline of the state. And so the state has the means to help subsidize the companies that will come in and control the means of production. But like they'll do it hand in hand with the state. And so like it was really funny that Dilemmas named this and called it how it was before. I'm pretty sure it was Dilemmas, but someone mentioned that it was Nvidia has just been partly nationalized by Trump. Like Trump is like supposed to be the apogee of like, the free market neoliberalism, no hand of the government on the free market. But like that's not the case. His plan to help deal with the crisis with China and they're winning, the fact that they're winning in the AI arms race is actually to nationalize Nvidia or part of Nvidia, so government can help subsidize but also control the development of AI technologies that will suit the Americans in their arms race with the Chinese. And so that's actual fascism. That's where the corporations come in and join hand in hand with the government to rule society, and freedom will go out the window there, because you need to plan and you need capital investment. You need large and broad scale capital investment. So I think it will tend towards fascism, but not like the Nazi style of fascism. This will be a techno form of fascism where the surveillance And the control of the population will be done through a surveillance capitalist lens. So it'll be done through sophisticated surveillance technologies. And so like we won't believe or understand that we're living in like exactly a fascist dystopia, like a Nazi party one, where everyone believes that they're an Aryan race. There'll be like nationalistic grounds to it and religious grounds to it, but like it'll be like control intensely through media and brainwashing. And then, yeah, the corporations will control the economy and like kind of caretake it for the state, and the state will subsidize them. And like, but like it'll be like kind of this dialectical relationship that the state and corporations hold. So that'll be a form of fascism, yeah, but like they will own everything, and it'll be like kind of a lord serf style relationship potentially, like in the proper techno feudalist sense of it. Like we won't really own anything and we'll be happy, but like we'll all subscribe to stuff. So there'll still be an economy with circulation. And like that's why I'm really worried about things like the UBI. And like people will still get, you know, they'll get money, and like everyone will be happy. We won't have jobs, but we'll have a stipend from the government, and they'll just use that to circulate things throughout the economy and help like kind of, you know, control what we do, kind of thing. So like fascistic rule in like, yeah, the neo-Nazi sense. Oh, sorry, the neo-Nazi sense, where there'll be like ethnic cleansing and the and like kind of this idea of the supreme race. I don't think it's going to be as eugenics kind of focused as that. There'll be not ethnic cleansing, but there'll be cleansing of certain sections of the population. There'll be cleansing of migrants, and people that are considered useless to the state. But I don't know if it'll be on like an ethnic basis exactly, because the world is pretty cosmopolitan now already. But like it'll be fascistic in the way that they'll be controlling and surveilling everyone. And yes, it'll be a massive displacement of wealth, and no one will own anything kind of thing anymore, because like wealth is power. Even for the middle classes, they're very powerful politically because they command wealth. But like if you gut out the middle classes completely, you have much more of a tendency towards that kind of fascist takeover, I guess. Grim. Gotta get off grid. Yeah, I know it is grim. I know it's really grim. I'm sorry. It's just the way that I'm processing everything at the moment. This is the way I see it good. It going, sorry. Chairman of the court, it seems as though effective societal progress is a bell curve. As the population grows, the number of people required to make the most effective decisions expands, but it reaches a tipping point when the population surpasses a certain point. It becomes more effective to have less decision makers. And I think though there's a material basis to that chairman of the court. I think the material basis is that you require less people actually in the economy, because the technology is better. Like you could even get to a point potentially with AI and automation that you could get rid of most of needing a lot of humans to do stuff, and whoever controls that technology means, hey, why do we need all these people to make decisions? You know, they're just cattle now that feed off our amazing machines. Kind of like a weird, just replace ethnicity with class. Yeah, and I think there'll be some of that. Like the richest nation in the world becomes full authoritarian and then uses military force and economic coercion to slowly install loyalists in other countries, slowly changing others into its image. Yeah, because like I don't think ethnicity will be as big of a problem. Like, don't get me wrong, it's going to be used as like the nationalist like hammer to beat people over the head with. But like they're gonna do it based on citizenship soon. It'll be like, oh, it's either you're a citizen or you're not, as opposed to you're like of the pure race or not kind of thing. I think citizenship will be bigger. It will be Cypher eating steak in the Matrix kind of fascism. I know this steak is not real, but God, it's so good.
Remember, I am, you are, we are a mystery.